We now join NBC Sports.
This is the 1996 NBA Finals postgame show. Now your host, Bob Costas.
So the Chicago Bulls are up 3-0, 108-86 over the Sonics here at Key Arena in Game 3. Michael Jordan got 27 of his 36 in the first half. The Sonics made a run late in the second quarter and in the third quarter to get close, but they could never get it inside double digits, and eventually the Bulls prevail 108-86. Bob Costas back upstairs here with Peter Vecsey and Julius Erving. Well, what can you say? The first couple of games the Bulls were able to win, but tonight they just about unveiled the full arsenal.
I think, Bob, that they finally showed who they really are. You know, I was thinking before this game, well, what did Seattle learn in the first 2 games? Do they need to trap a little bit more? In Chicago, they trapped once the press was broken, you know, they just retreated to guard the basket. When they came home to Seattle, would they trap multiple times, a second time, a third time, as they did so often during the season? The Bulls had all that go right out the window because Seattle was cold in the beginning. The Bulls were determined to try to win this game in the first 10 minutes, and I think that's exactly when they won it.
Peter.
I think it's last year's Magic Rockets series all over again. The team that hasn't been there doesn't understand what it takes to get the job done. The Sonics now learning that every possession is meaningful, the fever pitch that it takes, the demonic defense, the precision, the execution, all these things they'll remember if they ever get back here again.
Folks, if you watch the broadcast on NBC, and I assume if you're interested enough to watch a post-game show on CNBC, you probably watched the game itself on NBC, then you saw plenty with Dennis Rodman. He got the pregame. He got the halftime. Let's give him the hat trick. Here he is on the postgame with Jim Gray.
Thank you very much, Bob Costas. Well, Dennis Rodman, you now go up 3-0. What will go on now in the next 72 hours? It's going to be difficult to concentrate. You're just right there on the edge.
I'm going to watch a lot of game tapes. I'm going to watch a lot of game tapes till the day comes. I'm just ready to go. I'm focused. I'm ready to go. I want to end this now.
How different does this feel than the 2 that you won with the Detroit Pistons?
It feels a lot different because I didn't really appreciate what it means to be appreciated as a world champion. Now it's totally different. Now I know what's going on. I know what it means. And now let's go out there and do it.
Last year, it seems as though with San Antonio, you were a dislikable figure. It seems as though certainly Chicago has taken to you and now the rest of the country. Have you done something consciously to try and earn the respect of everyone?
I haven't done anything. I've just been myself, individual. I can't be like all the rest of these people here and try to be something that I'm not. And, you know, if what you see is what you get. If you don't like it, that's your tough luck. But I'm just trying to go out there and play for the people, make people happy. That's it.
What were you saying to all of the Sonics? You had almost a verbal confrontation with everybody on the team, particularly Bukowski.
I love that. I love to get in people's head, and Charles Carr tried to get in my head. He's a great coach, but he got to understand something. He don't have the guys on the bench that's mentally tough enough to handle what I got to say and do out there. So you better prepare yourself and study for the next 72 hours.
Even Michael gave you a hug. We haven't seen Michael have physical contact with you since you guys won 70 games. What did he say when he put his arm around you?
You know, he said, no one really appreciates what you really bring to this game. And basically, that's all he says. You know, he said, you know, I'm glad to have him on the team, and I'm glad to be here.
Dennis, thanks for taking the time with us. We'll see you on Wednesday night. Back to you, Bob Costas.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. Well, all of us must respect the play of Dennis Rodman on the court, but now I learn that he is something of a Henry David Thoreau figure of the late 20th century in terms of being an icon of individualism, and we're all heartened to learn that. But your thoughts on his play tonight?
Well, my thoughts, period. You know, I don't think the things he does off the court has necessarily any positive social redeeming value, but on the court, he is a force to be reckoned with, and you see the confidence exuding from him now. I don't think that all the Bulls are going to walk around with their chest out, you know, thinking that it's done, even though history says something different. I think they're still going to maintain their modesty and try and respect the Sonics as they've respected every team in the league while they're beating on them.
We're going to hear from Nate McMillian, who spoke with Hannah Storm a moment ago. But before we do, a quick thought here from you.
Well, the Bulls got bumped last year by Orlando. The difference between last year and this year, with the Bulls being one victory away from a championship, is the fact that Michael Jordan came back in shape, had a conditioning program in training camp, and Dennis Rodman. He can't be outworked. He is the presence that they lacked last year on the boards and defensively.
Well, the view from the bench couldn't have been pretty from the perspective of Nate McMillian, who was sidelined by injury and watched in street clothes. And immediately after the game, he spoke with our Hannah Storm. Here it is.
Thanks, Bob. Nate, it seemed as if this game was won from the very beginning by the Chicago Bulls. What happened in the first half that enabled them to get out to that huge run?
Well, I think they just came out and played very aggressive. This team is a very experienced team, and they wanted to make a statement early in the game. And Michael and those guys got off to a very aggressive start. They started Kukos, which sort of threw us a curve at the beginning of the game and gave them more offensive power. And they just got off to a good start. They shot the ball well. The defense was there, and our shots wasn't falling early in the game.
You've just come out of the locker room. What was said after the game?
Well, the thing is, we have to continue to believe. I think it seems to me that we're giving these guys too much respect. It's sort of difficult to get upset or go out with an attitude against Michael and Scotty and those guys because they're not physical or dirty players. But I think we're giving them a little bit too much respect. You know, we're not bumping and grinding. We're a physical team, and right now we don't have that into our game. And they're out there executing and just picking us apart.
They've done a tremendous job also when you look back on the 3 games neutralizing Gary Payton. How much of that has to do with you being unable to play? How much of that has to do with their defense?
Well, I think it's me all together. You know, with me in the lineup, Gary's free to roam, get up and down the floor. I'm able to run the point, get the ball to him so he can get out into the early offense and just create his shots. But right now, with me out of the game, he has to handle the ball the whole game, and that's taken away from his game. The steals are not there. I looked up, we only had 3 steals, so I help in that way too. But you know, we got to find a way to get our transition going, and right now we don't.
No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit at this point. Is there any realistic hope of your doing that, or are you just looking to Game 4 and the pride of this franchise?
Well, there's always hope. You know, we still have a game to go. We have 2 games left here. The thing is, we have to win. We have to win now. You know, that's what it comes down to. We have to win the next game. If we win that one, we have another game in Seattle. But we have to play much more aggressive basketball than we played in the last 3 games.
Okay, Nate McMillian, thanks so much for joining us. And now you wish you could be out there in uniform to help your team out.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Bob?
Okay, Hannah, I guess one way to describe this series for the Sonics, McMillian and strife.
Susan St. James, we should get a bonus for doing something like that.
There you go. You get the feeling, though, that although Nate is an important contributor and he would have changed their substitutions and whatnot, that it really doesn't make that much difference. Well, with all due respect.
Well, I think it made a huge difference in the first 2 games because people are beginning to understand and appreciate what Nate McMillian means to this team. I mean, he mentioned a number of things there. What he didn't mention was the leadership and the 3-pointers. And without him coming off the bench, Sam Perkins basically is a starter with Erving Johnson getting only a few minutes. The Sonics don't have a bench.
Yeah, let me clarify. I meant tonight. Obviously, the first 2 games were close and could have turned on any number of things.
Well, yeah, I think it made an absolute difference. You know, in Game 2, he could have made the difference because it was a close game. The first 2 were blowouts. But if you look at the Chicago situation, when they were missing Tony Kukoc, it put so much pressure on Scottie Pippen to handle the ball and do 80% of the playmaking instead of sharing that responsibility with Tony and with Michael that his offensive game suffered, and the Bulls ended up losing that 1 game to the next.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back on the post-game show, we'll hear from George Karl, from Phil Jackson, from Steve Kerr, and from Spike Lee here in Seattle, where the Sonics could not do the right thing tonight. We'll be back. Back in Seattle, where the Bulls blew out the Sonics, took a 3-0 lead in the series. As you know, Dennis Rodman removes his jersey after each game. And who got it tonight or this late afternoon in Seattle? Let's take a look. Do we have that footage? Cindy Crawford was in attendance at the game. And there she is. The lucky winner of the souvenir, or recipient of the souvenir. Dennis Rodman's road jersey belongs to Cindy Crawford after the Game 3 victory. And now we go to Steve Kerr and his post-game thoughts.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. I'm joined by Steve Kerr. Steve, you just came out of the locker room. What's the feeling back there, just 1 game away from this historic run?
Well, we're pretty happy, but we're trying not to be too happy because we still haven't finished it off. We have 1 more to go, obviously, and it'll be nice to relax for a couple days and then get back at it.
Will these next 3 days drive you crazy, or with the anticipation? Is it going to be a long time coming for this game?
It'd be a lot longer if we were only up 2-1, I'll tell you that. We would like to play Tuesday, you know, but you know, schedule says Wednesday, and why not enjoy a few days in Seattle?
Did you expect more of a fight tonight from Seattle? I mean, you guys came out in the first 10 minutes, and effectively this game was over.
Well, we've actually felt like we were due to play a good game, and that's kind of the scary thing about our team is we can win when we're not playing well. But offensively, we really haven't played well in the playoffs that often. So we were due, and when Michael came out on fire like that, and all of a sudden Luke's scoring, and Tony starts surprisingly and hits like his first 3 shots, I think, you know, that was a good sign right there. It was going to be a long night for them.
As has been his custom, was it a mistake of Gary Payton to make such a to-do and get in Michael's face?
I wouldn't advise getting in Michael's face to anybody. It was probably a mistake, but that's Gary's game, and you know, he's going to play that way, and that's what usually gets him going. So, you know, you can't blame him for that.
Steve, it seemed as though tonight as well that you guys kind of played off the theatrics of Dennis Rodman, his taunting, if you want to call it that, and his enthusiasm. Was that the case?
Well, we always feed off of Dennis's energy. That's one of his keys to the team, really. He brings defense and rebounding, but also a lot of energy. And he withstood some psychological warfare out there from the Sonics, too. And we thought he did a good job of holding up.
Steve, thanks for joining us.
Right, thanks, Jim.
All right, back to you, Bob.
Jim, thanks a lot. Do not go anywhere. We're coming right back to you. Steve Kerr was just 1 for 11 in the first 2 games in Chicago, uncharacteristically off in terms of his shooting, and tonight he comes through with 3 of 4 and a total of 8 points. So that was Steve Kerr on tape with Jim Gray moments ago. Now we go back down to the floor, and here he is live with Luke Longley. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Bob. Luke Longley, 19 points tonight, his playoff career high. In fact, you had your career high back in November, 21 points. What's with you in this building? Seems to bring out the best of you.
I don't know, it does. It's been good to me this year. You know, I'd like to come back here more often.
Michael got after you pretty good in game 2. Tonight you come out much more aggressively with much more of an offensive impact. What was it that he said that got you going, and why the production tonight?
Well, it wasn't so much what Michael said that got me going. It was just I was disappointed with game 2. I had a very good game 1 offensively, and just sort of didn't really get in, and never got into game 2. And obviously having Michael spurring you on helps, but you know, it was something that would have happened, I think, otherwise.
It looks like you've been playing a little Australian rules football. Did the stitches the other night make you mad?
Certainly, and that was one of the things that Michael mentioned, was that, you know, I still had a fairly poor game after receiving cut like that. He thinks that should fire me up, so I did, and I played a lot better tonight.
You were much more physical tonight as well. You kind of pushed John Kemp at one point. Was it your intent just to get after it a little bit more tonight?
Yeah, I tried to concentrate a lot harder on Sean and on getting sort of underneath him early in transition, not letting him get those easy baskets, and I think you know, it frustrated him, especially in the first half.
Is there a celebration going on in there, or is it still a bit premature?
No, this team's very good at not having premature celebrations. We didn't just celebrate our Eastern Conference win, but I think we'll have a good one once we win the whole thing, and hopefully that'll be fairly shortly.
Wednesday night.
I hope so. I mean, I think this Seattle team's got a lot of fight left in them, so you know, you never can tell.
All right, Luke, we appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks a lot, mate. Good on you.
All right, back to you, mate Bob.
All right, thank you, Jim, and to you, Luke. Good day. Now let's go to the interview room where Phil Jackson moments ago had these comments for the assembled members of the press. Here's the Bulls coach.
Seattle can play as hard as they did in the third quarter, make things difficult for us, and we've got a road ahead of us to go before we can claim this one.
Phil, it seemed as if in game 1 and 2 you single covered Kemp the way you did O'Neal and Ewing and Mourning before that. And in this game, it seemed like you threw a lot more double teams then, and there was a conscious effort to stop him in this game because he's the only one that really hurt you in the first 2.
I couldn't see you because of that sport coat in front of you.
Sorry, Phil.
The strategy today was to throw double teams at Sean. He had really hurt us badly in the 2 games in Chicago. We thought that perhaps he would be even better here in the home court, and we tried to get the ball out of his hands early in the game. And it worked simply because they did miss a couple of open threes and led us to runouts. We had a couple steals, and I thought he didn't get the kind of looks or shots that he necessarily likes or get involved in the game the way he likes to do it. Okay.
Do you think that there are teams in this league right now that have any type of mental capacity in these playoffs to understand what playoff basketball is about? And do you think that with Jordan and Pippen and Rodman, you really have a monopoly on that in this league at this time?
You know, that's a grandiose question to answer, and I'd hate to be a pompous ass by answering it and saying that, no, there is no other team. But the thing that's impressive, I think most impressive to a coach like myself about the team that I've been able to coach this year is the fact that they go on the road and they're a better basketball club on the road. For some reason or other, the resiliency of this basketball club steps up. And that is the true mark of a championship team. And I'll say it, it's happened before. I've seen it happen when the Pistons were a championship team, the Bulls were a championship team in the 90s. And they seem to have a chemical bond that really strengthens their unit.
Phil, you've done a real good job of dealing with Dennis's performance over the year. And you guys were in such control of the game. Why did you let it get stupid at the end?
Well, you know, I felt that, you know, Vecsey come out in the third quarter and accomplished what he brings to the game, a very physical, kind of intense scrum activity out there. And Dennis stayed pretty strong throughout that period. But there was a few things that were just too many confrontations. I didn't like what was going on, and I didn't want the game to disintegrate. I don't think it's you know, fair to the game itself to let it disintegrate that way. And Dennis had a little trouble holding his head today, but I thought he did a real good job overall.
Luckily, we had switched from the broadcast to the cable side before Phil Jackson made reference to the possibility of appearing to be a pompous posterior, or words to that effect. Perhaps Phil aware that he was on the more liberal airwaves of CNBC than NBC, but you have words of praise that will play on any broadcast outlet for him, right?
Question? I'll tell you, though, talking about Phil Jackson, he's so far ahead of everybody. The way he and his staff are adjusting. While I take it back, they set the mode, and then everyone has to adjust. And while the Sonics are trying to adjust to Gary Payton being defense, he switches it, and defense is Sean Kemp. So his staff and Phil deserve a lot of credit.
So you don't buy the idea that just because you have the best horses, you can't be the best coaches. Not anybody would have won 72 games, not just anybody with this team.
You've got to be very prepared, and this staff is very prepared, best in the league.
Okay, we're prepared with more interviews. We'll hear from Spike Lee and George Karl, among others, when we come back.
2-8.
So the Bulls win it 108-86, and they can finish the job if they have sweep on their mind on Wednesday back here at Key Arena. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from tonight's Game 3 here in Seattle. Pick it up from the start. Ron Harper, normally a starter, with a sore knee. Tony Kukoc opens instead. No matter, Chicago gets off quickly. Michael connecting for 3 of his 12 in the first quarter. Bulls score the first 7 of the game. Kukoc coming off strong back-to-back games in Chicago. Hits the tray here. Chicago up 18-4. The Sonics committed 13 turnovers in the first half compared to just 5 for the Bulls, and it cost them. Scottie Pippen will take it the length of the floor here. Chicago by 18 after 1 quarter. On to the second period, and the Sonics go on an 11-0 run. Gary Payton cutting Chicago's lead to 34-23, but that was as close as they got in the first half. George Karl's team on its way to 3 straight losses for the first time all year. Luke Longley with a nice move here, and the hook. Bulls back up by 16. Longley had 19 points. All Jordan in the first half. The NBA's MVP and scoring champion scored 15 straight in one stretch for Chicago. By halftime, he had 27 points on 8 of 16 shooting from the field. Moving to the fourth quarter after we get done with Jordan's exploits, and there's Dennis Rodman playing some mind games with his good friend Frank Brickowski. And moments later, Brickowski and Rodman become entangled. Brickowski called for the flagrant foul, and he is ejected for the second time in 3 games. The Bulls take Game 3. A laugher for Michael Jordan and company, who can barely conceal their amusement, winning by a score of 108-86. And now, as promised, a conversation with Spike Lee. Let's have our producer Rick Diamond tell me who spoke with him. Naturally, Jim Gray. Jim Gray speaks with everybody. There he is.
Joined by Spike Lee. Spike, we know that you're a big New York Knicks fan, but you're also very close to Michael Jordan. Sitting in these stands, you travel all over. What is your thought process, and how do you feel about just watching these games? One of your best friends playing, and he's on the verge now of making history, coming back after a couple years off.
I feel good for Mike, but I'm disappointed in Seattle. They didn't show nothing tonight. Nothing.
No fight, really, did they? They didn't come out with much energy or much anticipation of getting back in this series, did they?
I thought they were going to show me more than that, man, but it's over now. They're coming out for blood Wednesday night. So I just watched it on television because it's done deal.
What did you expect when the Sonics come out tonight? Yeah, I know you talked to several of the players. Did you expect that they would be able to get back into this series, or knowing Michael as you knew him and know him, did you feel that it wouldn't be much of an effort?
I thought Chicago was a win, but I thought Seattle would give him a fight, but it just rolled over tonight. I don't know what happened.
Spike, you've seen a lot of teams. You've been a basketball fan for an awful long time. How does this Chicago team compare to the other teams you've seen along the line?
They're all right.
Just all right. You're not going to give it better than your Knicks team?
No, they're a great team. They're a great team. It's just amazing to me. I think that, you know, people dogging the Knicks out, well, they play Chicago hard than any team in the playoffs, you know, and if it wasn't with Bill Oakes, they could have won Game 4.
Oh, you're not going to blame the referee for this,
The guy called 2 travels with a minute in the last minute of the game.
You're saying without that, the Knicks would be here right now?
No, I'm saying we'd have won 2 games instead of 1. But still, I mean, like, you got to be physical with Chicago. I mean, other than that, man, they're going to kill you.
Are you going to spend your whole life just hoping that somebody can beat Chicago?
Hey, we get Barkley next year. We're gonna, we got to be. I want to be Michael before he retires.
Well, there's been a lot of talk. Do you feel as though Charles Barkley or Juwan Howard, or what is the answer coming into New York?
We're getting somebody. Reggie Miller, Allen Houston, Barkley, or Juwan. We're getting somebody. I'm going to be ready next year.
Were you happy with the decision to keep Jeff Van Gundy?
Yes, I'm glad they signed him. Don Nelson, that was the wrong move. Wrong move. And you know, on top of that, they're still gonna raise the ticket prices next year to $1,250. Hey, that's a lot of money for a game. That's what's that? $3,000 a game.
Somehow, I don't think you'll be canceling.
Nah, because there are people waiting for my seats. I'm gonna keep on trying.
Maybe you'll be able to cancel a little penny seat. That may be a little too much to pay.
All right.
Spike, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Good luck to you with your filmmaking. All right, let's go back to Bob Costas.
All right, Jim, Spike Lee, a very knowledgeable and passionate basketball fan, offering a harsh critique of the NBA referees of the Sonics play tonight, and some free advice to Dave Checketts and Ernie Grunfeld about the decisions coming up in the offseason for the Knicks. But of course, he's concerned about the ever-escalating price of courtside seats at the Garden. I understand they may even make Marv pay to get in next year. Let's go to him.
And Bob, I can certainly understand that also. Spike lashing out in many directions. Getting back to what took place here tonight and in the series, of course, on Wednesday, the Chicago Bulls could make it a 4-game sweep. Let's take a look back at what has taken place over the first 3. The Bulls taking the first 2 in the Windy City as Tony Kukoc led an impressive 4th quarter charge by Chicago in a 17-point opening game victory. Kukoc on fire, and then in game 2 was Dennis Rodman controlling the boards. 11 offensive rebounds to tie a finals record. Tonight, Michael Jordan off to the quick start, and Jordan came out, did it in the first quarter as the Bulls were able to blister the Sonics in the opening quarter, and he finished with a game high of 36 points. Michael showing the entire arsenal, finished strong, and then enjoyed watching the final minutes at the bench as Phil Jackson was able to shuffle things down the stretch. A look at Michael's performance. Not happy with what took place in games 1 and 2. They were not Jordan-like lofty numbers, but 28 and 29, not bad, and then 36 here tonight. The Bulls 50% shooting, the Sonics 45, but did not pick that up until late in the game. In the assist department, again, the Sonics falling short. Had only 10 in game 2, 14 here tonight in game 3. And look at 21 turnovers, and once again, Seattle not able to do it from downtown. Only 4 of 16 from three-point range. Matt, what is going on with Seattle's offense?
Well, I talked to George Karl before the season started, and he told me that what he was most concerned about their offense, and now I see why. It has just been terrible. During the regular season, they rely so much on getting some easy baskets from their defense. Well, you don't do that against a team like Chicago because they take care of the ball and their transition defense is good. But in the half court, Seattle is just not disciplined enough, not crisp enough, and they just don't seem to have a plan.
All right, now the Bulls get through the long layoff concern for game 1, the concern of overconfidence for game number 2, and for game number 3. What does Phil Jackson going to come up with a theme in game number 4?
Marv, for Phil Jackson and the Chicago Bulls, it's all about the challenge of being perfect. That's what Phil Jackson has meant to this Bull franchise since he took over. He's got them to this threshold. Now they've got a chance to make NBA history. Look for them to come out on fire.
All right, let's go back upstairs to Bob.
Up 3-0 in a series. You've never been down 0-3. What are your thoughts on what's going through the heads of the Bulls, the Sonics?
Been down 3, but not 0-3, and gone for the closer a couple of times in the ABA, and the series against Los Angeles in 1983. We won the 3rd game in LA. We had 2 or 3 days before it was time to play, and let me tell you, the game can't come fast enough. You get so antsy, you want to go out to playgrounds and play against kids just to keep your game sharp, and then the day comes, and if you're a good player, you know that no matter how far you're down, you're going to win that game because history is on your side.
Okay, they've got to wait about 72 hours or so, but they can go for the sweep on Wednesday. For Peter Vecsey and for Dr. J and our whole crew, a reminder that Game 4 of the NBA Finals, the Bulls and Sonics from Seattle, will be Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time as the Bulls try to complete the winningest season in NBA history with a sweep of the Sonics. For our entire NBC crew, Bob Costas, so long from Seattle.